In the supermundane world, there is no light in the earthly sense. The only light sources are the creatures living there. Their nature, their thoughts, their intentions and desires. That means their radiations form a visible aura which more or less illuminates the environment. The entire perceptibility of the subtle world is relative, depending upon the development of the consciousness. One can be enraptured by the light, or one may find oneself in fog. The true nature of a man is revealed there relentlessly and with a clarity no longer to be concealed. Every intention, every thought, and every feeling produces a visible emanation. You can actually see whether someone is lying or saying the truth, whether he's pure or unclean, jealous, fearful, hostile or friendly. His aura, nobody can hide behind beautiful words, as this is still possible on earth. On the earthly plane, people try to hide their fear, but in the other world, it cannot be concealed. Some have a bright, warming, luminous nature and spread light around them. Others swallow like vampires even the little light that is near them. People feel in their essence that in the subtle world every intention is accompanied by an obvious radiation, but man himself does not see his own radiations. If he were fully convinced of the good quality of his thoughts, he would fear nothing. Therefore, I reiterate so much about the necessity of clear thinking. A spiritual person creates through his achievements, through the imperishable accumulations of his eternal being, through his inner light, a shining aura around him. With the spiritual emanations, he lights his surroundings. Without his own inner light, he could not see anything there. As one's own light illumines the surroundings, so too does one's own darkness choke all space. It is the clarity of thought, of consciousness, that creates a bright light. He who did not learn on earth how to think and to see clearly, his light will not be sufficient to recognize his surroundings. He will grope in the dark and wander around as if in the fog. This is a terrible state. He who has only little spiritual radiance must live in the higher world in darkness, mentally in the night. Let us hear a quotation from Agni Yoga. Blindness in the subtle world is dreadful. Imagine yourself entering a half-darkened house, in the corners of which lurk indistinguishable images, all intermingled and surrounded by indistinct spots. Even where no particular monsters exist, he who is blind and malicious will see horrible shapes. In the lower layers of the other world, there is darkness, because there are gathered souls with underdeveloped consciousness. What is needed here most is light. Certain strata of the subtle world dwell in twilight, because the light of their dwellers is faint. The higher you get, the brighter it is. However, you can climb up there only in accordance with the level of your consciousness and the extent of your achievements. Light bearers with a bright radiance defeat darkness and help those wandering around therein. Without light, you cannot see anything there. In the absence of gross physicality in this world, we cannot use our 5 earthly senses. The physical eyes are useless to us. We perceive the conditions of the higher world with our heart knowledge. You can orient yourself only with a clear consciousness already trained on earth. He who has not developed his inner perception of the spiritual content, of the essence of the things, living beings and situations he encounters, will not be able to find his way there. You have to be able to recognize the creatures who approach you and the situation in which you find yourselves according to their nature. And that means, above there, according to their spiritual emanations. Good, clear sight is due to clarity of consciousness. The conditions there are so new, so unusual, that only a broad consciousness, not limited by prejudice, can grasp them. Is it not a wonderful and elevating idea how important is the light within ourselves in these higher spheres? Here, justice is given to everyone. Is it not a dignified, a proper order that on a higher level, both our cognitive faculties and our creative forces depend upon our spiritual power? Does not just this reveal the truly higher, namely the more spiritual world? We do not need a language in the supermundane world. The higher vibrations there are not physically visible or audible. We communicate mentally, right from being to being, through the feeling of the heart. The procedure is similar to the understanding of a piece of music. We receive the essence of an utterance directly, without it having to be put into words. Feelings are transmitted and received directly, without the need of only one word. Communication in the subtle world is mental, and there is no need for different languages. It is wonderful to be able to think in one's own language and at the same time be understood by those from other countries. Thus, finally, a full, direct, undisturbed, and above all, accurate communication becomes possible, even with people speaking different languages, or with other creatures, such as animals, with whom many saints were able to communicate. You can practice the language of the heart already on the material plane. Try to read from the eyes of your partner his thoughts, wishes, and moods. Then soon no longer words will be necessary. Or try to understand the message a piece of classical music wishes to convey to you. You would do well to prepare yourself already on earth for the afterlife by expanding your consciousness and developing your capacity for knowledge, sensitivity, and clarity of thought, for thought creation and imagination. Only what you can imagine will you be able to produce above there. There, the width of your imagination determines the size of your possibility. He who has only developed little imagination limits his own possibilities. The more beautiful the imagination, the better are the possibilities engendered there where thought rules. If you have already learned on the material plane to control your thoughts and emotions, and to cherish good thoughts only, then you will be a good builder. All the others will create pointless or terrible forms. How many people are there who are unable to think clearly and to develop an idea or a vision coherently and consistently? They will cause only chaos in the other world, where everything they think will immediately become reality. Even the satisfaction of simple needs, such as procuring suitable clothing, will be difficult if clarity of thought is missing. An undisciplined imagination will accumulate only shreds from a variety of models, but will be unable to produce a meaningful, as a whole practical and beautiful garment. The mind can function clearly in the subtle world only if it was sufficiently exercised in the physical world. You remember how someone who had just entered the subtle world was helpless and could not even fashion a garment for himself because he had lost the clarity of his thinking. You know how difficult it is in meditation to focus your thoughts and to allow them no digression. If all you think will immediately become reality, your thoughts will drive you back and forth, from one place and one project to the other, a state of mind from which nothing meaningful can result. Even wishing you will have to learn. It is not so easy to act meaningfully in a world in which every wish immediately comes true. Let us hear a paragraph from Agni Yoga. Express your wishes cautiously. Everyone knows many parables and fairy tales which describe the ugly consequences of careless wishes. Remember about the Raja who wished to receive a beautiful palace and did receive it, but who, on entering it, thought about an attacking tiger, which then appeared and tore him to pieces. He who does not know how to work mentally will wander around unemployed and purposeless in the other world. You will have to find already here on earth tasks which exceed the earthly, the material, and which you can continue to work on above there after the change of existence. The mental workers will be a great power there. It makes sense for you to prepare for your role and for your place in the other world, already here on earth. It says, we must concentrate our free will so that our thought, like a messenger, prepares our place in the subtle world. Let your thoughts fly ahead of you and prepare new, beautiful dwellings. Or another quotation. Even in moving into a better apartment, people select their best possessions, and no one takes his dirty rags with him. Just as carefully and worthily must man prepare for his dwelling in the subtle world. You can also find over there instructions from above, but only if you have learned already in this life to follow spiritual mental leadership by a not incarnated teacher. It will not be possible to develop all these skills only in the other world. You will have to bring them with you upon transition. If you want to live in the afterlife in pure and clean spheres, you will have to earn the right to do so here on earth.